In the darkest days of World War II, when the mightiest warships fell, the fate of entire fleets often rested on the shoulders of the smallest, most daring vessels. These were the destroyers, the tin cans, sent into the heart of the fire to turn the tide. Among them, one ship became a legend: HMS Electra. Twice, she braved impossible odds to rescue the crews of sinking giants, and in her final desperate battle, she charged headlong into overwhelming firepower to save her comrades, becoming an immortal symbol of courage in the Royal Navy. HMS Electra joined the fleet in 1934, a small but sturdy E-class destroyer. As war engulfed Europe, she became a lifeline for Britain, patrolling the treacherous North Atlantic. Day after day, she escorted vital convoys, her crew battling not just German U-boats and bombers, but the brutal, unforgiving sea itself. In these early years, Electra proved her resilience, a guardian of the waves, ensuring that Britain would not be starved into submission. In May 1941, Electra's destiny intertwined with the giants of the Royal Navy. She was part of the escort for the iconic battlecruiser HMS Hood and the brand-new battleship Prince of Wales as they hunted Germany's fearsome super battleship, the Bismarck. The world held its breath. But disaster struck. In a terrifying flash, a shell from Bismarck found Hood's magazine. The pride of the Navy exploded, vanishing in a plume of smoke and fire. As chaos reigned, it was the little Electra that raced to the scene first, scouring the icy waters. From a crew of over 400 men, she found only 3 survivors. It was a grim, heartbreaking introduction to the sheer brutality of war at sea. Months later, fate called again. Electra was redeployed to the Far East, once more escorting the Prince of Wales, this time alongside the battlecruiser Repulse. They were Force Z, sent to halt the Japanese advance. But off the coast of Malaya, they were ambushed not by battleships, but by waves of Japanese aircraft. In a stunning display of air power, both capital ships were sent to the bottom of the sea. For the second time, Electra found herself at the heart of a catastrophe. And for the second time, she became a vessel of mercy, pulling over 700 desperate sailors from the oil-slicked water. Twice, she had witnessed the death of giants and done her duty to save the living. With the sinking of Prince of Wales and Repulse, the Allied position in the Far East collapsed. Japan's forces swept across Southeast Asia like a tidal wave. Singapore fell. Electra and the other surviving destroyers were forced to retreat to Surabaya, on the island of Java. There, a desperate, last-ditch alliance was formed. A mixed fleet of British, American, Dutch, and Australian ships, cobbled together to make one final stand. They knew they were outgunned, outnumbered, and without air cover. But they would not surrender. Electra and her crew prepared for a battle they knew they might not survive. The situation was dire. Japanese forces dominated the sea, land, and air, while there had been fleeting moments of Allied heroism, like the daring American destroyer attack at Balikpapan. The tide of war was flowing in only one direction. By late February 1942, the invasion of Java was imminent. The Allied commanders knew this was their last chance. They gathered every ship they had left to form a combined striking force. It was a desperate gamble against a far superior enemy. Under the command of Dutch Admiral Karel Doorman, this patchwork fleet prepared for the fight of their lives. The core of his force included the heavy cruisers HMS Exeter and USS Houston, but opposing them was a perfectly drilled Japanese fleet led by Rear Admiral Takeo Takagi, centered on the powerful heavy cruisers Nachi and Haguro. The Battle of the Java Sea was about to begin. On paper, the forces might have looked somewhat balanced, but the reality was terrifyingly different. The Allied fleet was a Tower of Babel on the water, ships from 4 different navies, each with their own tactics, communication codes, and even signal flags, struggled to coordinate. In contrast, the Japanese were a single, cohesive fighting machine, honed by years of training, and they had a critical advantage: firepower. The cruisers Houston and Exeter carried 6 8-inch guns each, but the Japanese Nachi and Haguro each boasted 10. This gave them a devastating long-range superiority. The stage was set for a slaughter. On the afternoon of February 27, 1942, the fleets made contact. At 4 p.m., the Japanese cruiser Jinsu opened fire, and her first target was HMS Electra. The Battle of the Java Sea had begun. Soon the heavy cruisers on both sides were trading thunderous salvos across miles of open water. Admiral Dorman's fleet steamed in a single column, but just under an hour into the fight, disaster struck. A shell from the Haguro slammed into HMS Exeter, crippling her boilers and throwing the Allied line into chaos. As Exeter veered out of formation, trailing smoke and steam, confusion rippled through the fleet. Hidden by the smoke, the USS Houston mistakenly thought Exeter's turn was a fleet maneuver and followed. The other cruisers followed suit, and the entire Allied battle line fell apart, leaving Admiral Dorman's flagship, De Ruyter, dangerously exposed. To make matters worse, the Dutch destroyer Kort Nyer was hit by a torpedo and broke in two, sinking almost instantly. The Allied fleet was on the verge of annihilation. Amid the chaos, a single order cut through the noise. The 3 British destroyers were to counterattack. Leading the charge was HMS Electra. Her captain, Lieutenant Commander Cecil May, saw the crippled Exeter and the collapsing battle line. He knew what he had to do. He ordered smoke screens to shield the fleet and charged forward to cover the vulnerable cruisers. But as the Allied ships tried to regroup, a massive gap opened in their line, an opening the Japanese were ready to exploit. To save Exeter and buy time, Admiral Dorman gave a desperate command. Electra and her sister ship Encounter were to charge directly at the enemy. Electra burst through the smoke screen and found herself utterly alone. Ahead lay the Japanese cruiser, Jinsu, and a swarm of 14 enemy destroyers. The odds were impossible, but Electra didn't hesitate. She opened fire first, her guns blazing. Her shots found their mark, striking the destroyer Asagumo and crippling her engine room. For a few frantic moments, Electra seemed untouchable, weaving through a storm of enemy shells. Then, her luck ran out. 3 shells hit in rapid succession. One smashed the bridge. Another destroyed the ship's electrical systems. The third blew up the aft boiler room, and the ship shuddered to a dead stop in the water. Crippled and helpless, Electra was a sitting duck. In the engine room, Engineer Lieutenant Frank McLeod and his men fought desperately amidst the fire and smoke to restart the engines, but it was hopeless. The Japanese destroyer Asagumo closed in, mercilessly pounding the stricken ship. Electra's gunners fought back with defiant courage until their guns were silenced one by one. Warrant Officer Kane fired the last torpedoes, a final act of defiance. The ship began to list heavily as water poured in. The order was given, abandon ship. But even as the crew leaped into the sea, they were strafed by enemy fire. Captain Cecil May was the last to leave his bridge. He stood, waving farewell to his men in the water, as HMS Electra, his heroic ship, slipped beneath the waves. Her war was over, but her story, a saga of courage and sacrifice, would never be forgotten. Thank you for watching this story of incredible bravery. If you were moved by the courage of HMS Electra and her crew, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more stories of naval history, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you next time.